cars all the time, and drag racing, and just like love everything about old cars. We went so often, usually every weekend, and from a pretty young age, I would know what the car was, and I even got so good where I knew the year, or at least very close within the year range. I still know what the car is. I lost the ability to know kind of the year so accurately, but I can still give a pretty decent range. It was a fun thing that we did as a family. We just have this appreciation for American muscle cars. When I was turning 16 and going to get my license, I always dreamed about what would my car be. And a car I absolutely loved is a Firebird. My all-time favorite car is a 1969 Dodge Charger. But for newer cars, my favorite is a Firebird. I have always been very intuitive about manifesting, and I am a big believer in manifestation. My entire life, I have just intuitively known about manifesting, and that, we have the power to create a reality. And it wasn't really until late in high school that I even found out that that was called manifestation. What I always did, what I was always doing, was called manifestation. And law of attraction, all of those things. There are so many things that I manifested on a daily basis. And my car, getting my dream car, was my first really big manifestation. I had my sights set on getting a Firebird. The last generation Firebirds, they were so beautiful, and they could sound really nice and look really nice, and I would love to have one of those. I started doing research about them, and my parents kind of started talking about, like, yeah, maybe we would get you a car, but they would say, no, we're not going to do that. But then they kind of slowly got into the idea, and I'm an only child, and I know that I'm, like, incredibly privileged for all of this, so I know that too. But they were like, okay, yeah, you do the research, and if you find something, let us know, and, we'll look into it. So I did all this research and was constantly looking for what I wanted, what was for sale, what seemed like good deals and not. And we ended up looking at 3 or maybe 4 different Firebirds. Of the first couple that we saw, just did not have the right feel, or something was off, or one had like this really big dent in it, and or the price was too high or something. But then I remember seeing my car. It is a 1999 Firebird, silver, with T-tops, dual exhaust, and Corvette rims that are just gorgeous. I will put a picture in this video. I saw this car. I love this car. He turned it on. It was a kid that owned it. He was probably 18, like no older than 20, and he had to sell it for some reason because he needed the money, but he had done all of the work to it to kind of trick it out with the dual exhaust, which makes it sound really nice when it's driving, when it starts up and all of that. And he had done the rims, and he did a good job with it. I remember hearing the car start up, and it sounds like a muscle car. And if you like cars, you'll know, but the sound of a good car, there is necessarily to me. It was their car, they owned it, but it was going to be the car that I could use to drive. Plus, the price was incredible. It was under $10,000. I think it was $7,000. And it's in perfect condition. I still, to this day, do not have 100,000 miles on it. I think I'm at like 93. And when I got it, it was maybe at 75,000. So I don't drive it a lot of places. You know, I'm not like taking road trips with it. But just driving around town, and I love it. Perfect condition, low mileage, tricked out, and awesome price. And my parents bought it. I was so excited. I could not believe it. The other thing is, they bought it before I even had my license. They bought it, I want to say late summer or early fall, and I didn't get my license until the spring of the next year. It's not a winter car, so we store it in the winter. And my parents didn't want me to get my license. I could have gotten my license in November, but my parents didn't want me first, when I get my license, to be driving in the snow and the ice. So I waited until spring to get my license. As you can imagine, I was so ready to get my license. So excited. I couldn't wait. I was counting down the days. And there was two places that people could get their license. One was at like a course that was specifically for driving. The other was a place that brought you on actual roads, actual parking lots, all of that. I decided to go with the one that brings you on the actual roads. And in that one, there was this lady that was known for failing people. She was known for it. She was called the Fail Lady, literally, by everybody who was going to get their license. And I knew so many people that were failed by her. She was an older lady, and she had been there forever. And it was like one of those tales passed down from each class above you, you know, telling you about watch out for the fail lady, because it was just so common. Even people in other schools, all the area, knew there was this fail lady at this location. I knew that I was going to be a good driver. I wanted to drive so badly. I was practicing all the time, and the only thing I never quite felt good about was a 90-degree back. Parallel parking, I was a beast at. Awesome, I can do parallel parking. But that 90-degree back, something about it, I did not feel confident about. But my dad takes me to the driving test, and you know, you wait for who your person is, and then they come out to your car. They get in, and I see right away it is the fail lady. You know, she's the older lady with the glasses, fits the description of the fail lady. And there's only 3 people that do these driver test things. So I knew it was her. And of course, I was already nervous, but now I'm so nervous because I'm like, shoot. And what people said was that she would fail you for the smallest things, and she was just like so quick to mark you. So she gets in, and I'm trying to like be nice and sweet, and she's not having it. She is straight-faced and not nice, and just seemed grumpy. It was just like telling me, okay, go this, do this. And the first thing, what do you think the very first thing is that she has me do? The 90-degree back. Really? houses and park next to each other with our 2 cars. It was so funny. It was a very exciting time. I remember just coming up with reasons to go drive just because it was so fun, so exciting. So I would randomly come up with reasons to ask my parents if I can go take the car somewhere, go drive, even if it was just like, hey, I want to go to McDonald's for ice cream, because I just loved driving. It was the best feeling ever. Now, the first summer that I had my car, first summer that I had my license and everything, I did quite a bit of driving, and it was all pretty okay. But the car is like a sports car, and it handles like a sports car, so it's not super smooth and easy to drive. It's like you have to actively hold the wheel and drive it. One day in the middle of summer, I was at the bowling alley with friends, and then I was going to be driving home, which is very close, just like 2 to 3 miles from my house. It had just rained, so we think that maybe it was a little slippery, or I don't know, sometimes in the rain it handles a little differently, and it's rear wheel drive, so maybe that's part of it. I was at a stoplight, and then I was taking a left. So, I was in the intersection, taking a left, and not going fast at all, not driving recklessly at all. All of a sudden, my car does not just a full 180, but from my memory, it did it a couple of times, like 2 times. And on this, I can remember seeing the other side of the street. Thankfully, no cars were around. There were no cars anywhere. So people didn't even come check on me because literally no one saw this happen. All of a sudden, I landed up on this bank that was there. Grass. And it was so scary, but it also wasn't. It was the weirdest feeling ever. It was literally a Jesus took my wheel situation. I did not know what was happening. I was so confused. And it wasn't even like scary. It felt like an angel was taking my car and magically landed it up on this bank. I, of course, was like so upset, thinking something was wrong with my car then. Knowing that my parents would be really upset. And then the bank that I landed in, there was a bar in front of that, like a parking lot, and then the bar. So there were 2 drunk guys outside. They're talking to each other. They're like, whoa, it's a young chick. And then they're trying to yell at me like, hey, do you need help? I'm like, no, I'm fine. So I call my parents. I'm like, hey, something just happened. Can you come to this place? They get there in like 5 minutes because it's really close. They're freaked out. I'm freaked out. They're probably upset. I'm upset. Also, I'm trying to explain to them what happened. And I'm trying to tell them, like, I have no idea how this happened. And what's so weird is there's no tire tracks on the bank. Like, it doesn't show that my car went up the curb and up this bank. It's like as if it just landed there. So there are some tire marks where my tires are when we drove off, because then my dad drove it off. But there were no, like when my parents got there, there were no tire marks anywhere, not on the street, not on the curb, not in the grass. I'm telling you, Jesus took the wheel and put me there because this is it. Then my mom tells me that she had been praying that I would have some sort of very small scare. I don't even know, how does one pray about this so specifically, but she really did tell me that she had been praying that I would have a very small scare that would help me be a better still my favorite car. Every single spring that comes around, I'm so excited to drive it, get it out, and hear that first, like when it starts up and the sound that it makes. And inside of it, I have all of my CDs, all of my mixed CDs, burned CDs from friends and from that time period. So every time I get into it, it feels like a time capsule. It even smells the same. You know, it has leather, so it has this specific smell. And every time I get into it, it smells the same. So it just brings you back to that time. And I had so many good times with that car. My friends and I would take the T-tops off and drive around. And there were several times that my friend and I would have all-nighters and just driving around, and then we would park at places and sit on top of the T-tops and just talk or watch the sunrise. It's the best memories, plus my favorite music is in it, so I can just go in and put in a CD and drive around with the T-tops off and sing and feel the summer. It's the best feeling. I'm so grateful for that car. And my parents did end up gifting it to me, I think when I graduated college and put the title in my name. My parents still love it, and they love going in it, driving in it too. Sometimes we bring it to the car shows even. Last year, I brought it over to my parents' house, and I didn't tell them that I was bringing it, but my mom was like, I thought that was you, because I can hear you from a block away, and I thought that has to be the Firebird sound, because the sound is so good. And that was one of the things that she always said too, like, I would never be able to sneak out and sneak away with the car because you would hear it when it started up. In high school, everybody thought it was the coolest car, but then, like a few years ago, I still think it's the coolest car. Then a few years ago, I had this friend, and I was like, hey, do you want to drive in my Firebird? Thinking that she would think it was cool, because people who like cars would get how it's cool, but I guess she wasn't. And so I just could tell she wasn't loving it, because it's not like this luxurious experience. It's more about that sporty feel. It just made me laugh, oh yeah, I forget that people wouldn't always choose this